Now, with FIFA 20 fresh on the shelves of game stores near you, any of you career mode fans, I'm sure, are wanting to start career mode saves in the coming days. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to start your FIFA 20 career modes, giving you some tips and ways you can actually make this a whole lot easier for yourselves. If you're going to enjoy the video, slap a like on this one and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Step 1 in starting a career mode on FIFA 20, just don't bother. For that's probably the first bit of advice. No, I'm kidding. I mean, FIFA 20 career mode is broken, and to be honest with you, I wouldn't blame any of you for wanting to wait until maybe patches come about, but at the moment, according to Corey, the community manager, or one of the community managers for EA and for FIFA, there's no real ETA on when any of these patches are going to come about for career mode. They're aware of them, they've been logged, I think they found reasons as to why some of them are happening, but in terms of fixes, there doesn't seem to be any sort of date set, and usually that means it's going to be a while till we actually get anything coming about in terms of patches, so I wouldn't hold your breath. Alternatively, if you've got a PC that's good enough to run FIFA, it doesn't have to be the best gaming PC in the world. If you can run most games on your PC, then I would highly recommend getting it on that, because you can use something known as the cheat engine, and that will help you restore a lot of the difficulties and issues going on in the game right now. I'll leave a link down in the description to that, and also some tutorials from my friend Fifa. But regardless, you got your first step, obviously, on FIFA 20 career mode this year, and it's creating your manager. We've got customization this year, been crying out for it for a while, and you can create whoever you like. You can also use a real-life player if you want to. If you start up a player career mode and then retire immediately within that save, you can then start up as a manager. And after that, it's time to choose your team. There's no real right or wrong answers. It might be the team you support. It might be a Road to Glory team. But I have done videos in the past on what are some of the best teams to use based on storyline, based on the squad they've got. After that, you'll get to another menu, which has got like your difficulty, your currency that you're going to use. It also has the Champions League and Europa League groups. If you're going to want to keep this realistic, you're going to have to change these yourselves, because at the moment, these aren't updated to this season's Champions League. So you'll want to change that, and if you're not a fan of international football, you'll want to turn that off. That's quite a nice small feature for this year. You can disable international management job offers. Pre-season may be a little bit dull when it comes to playing the games. You might not be that interested, but it's really important, especially if you're using a team that's low on funds. It's a really easy way of bringing cash in. You can do what you like, but personally, I go for the one I think I'm most likely to win. Again, that might seem obvious, but I know a lot of people do go for the one that is just the most expensive or has the most prize money. You may get $1 million less if you were to win both competitions, but if you weren't going to win the first one and you're going to win the second one, then obviously choose the second one, whether it's worth less money or not. It is worth noting that the AI do tend to choose a slightly weakened side in pre-season. I mean, they do all the time apparently, but we'll get onto that later on. They certainly do in pre-season, so if you're simming and you're going to be using your starting 11 all the time, just bear that in mind. A team like Borussia Dortmund, for example, might not be as difficult as you think, because they're playing 5 or 6 youngsters because it's pre-season. After that, set up some team sheets. It's on the squad tab, which is in between transfers and a central one. You don't need to have loads. I personally just have a starting 11 team and a B team. It makes it easier when you're playing cup competitions. It's going to be super important to get your fringe players playing, because morale is so important, and dynamic potential will have a big impact on your young players. So if a player's really happy and really confident, they'll be better at certain things than they were at their base level. And then dynamic potential is based on youngsters, so if a youngster is playing more, getting more game time and playing really well, their potential is actually boosted by that fact. Now, in terms of transfers, there's loads you can do to make things a lot easier for yourself. First of all, though, I'd focus on getting rid of the dead wood, because then you can ship it all out of the club, especially if you're not going to play them, and you can work out how much money you actually have to spend in your first transfer window. I always get a little bit anxious when I start buying players before I've got rid of all the ones I want to get rid of, because I don't actually know how much money I really have. Make sure to sell or loan out players that are really not going to get any game time at all, because this year the calendar sim likes to play ridiculously low rated players. So say you've got a 67 rated goalkeeper, you have no plans of playing him, just get rid of him. Just literally get him out of the team, sell him, because otherwise the calendar sim might start playing him. So what that is, basically, if you sim by the calendar, if you want to go a month into the future, your assistant manager or the game will choose your starting 11 on a game-by-game basis. It likes to choose horrendous players for some reason, so if you get them out the door, you don't give it the opportunity or the chance to play those players in games. You can also make a short list full of players who've got release clauses. This is a good trick in terms of a long-term gain. Basically, you can search for players on the transfer market between the ages of like 16 and 22 who have release clauses in their contracts. Those release clauses will never change as they go through a career mode save unless they leave or go out on loan. So you get to a point in Season 3, maybe Season 4, where they're massively over in terms of value what their actual release clause is. So basically, you can get them for a fraction of the price. Ryan Brewster here has a release clause of £3 million. In 3 years, he'll be worth 25, so you could get him for £3 million, even though he's worth 25. And then I also highly recommend sending GTN scouts on a mission for players whose contracts are expiring at the end of the season. They've got to be above 23 because that's the age at which you can bring in players on pre-contract agreements. Basically, when a player is over 23 and when they arrive in January, you can actually sign them for nothing because you sign them on what's called a Bosman, or like just a contract expiry. So you've got to pay for their wages for 6 months, but you don't actually have to pay any sort of transfer fee. If you get your GTN scouts looking for players like that, you can have a big old list of players bringing in for free at the end of Season 1. Dynamic potential is really important this year, as I mentioned. If you've got young players who you think have got a really good potential and are close to the starting 11, try and give them as much game time as possible. It'll help them grow a lot quicker, and it's a really good knock-on effect because once they grow quicker, you can play them more. If you don't think, however, you can give them that game time, but you do want to still keep them, make sure you loan them out. Because if you've got people festering in the reserves and not playing at all during the course of the season, their potential will go down. At least if you loan them out, dynamic potential doesn't work for other teams. It's only your own. So at least they'll keep their potential. They won't go down. Training is also important this year. I'd focus on your younger players, obviously, because they're the ones that can grow quicker via training. Try and target players' relevant weaknesses. So for example, if you've got Tammy Abraham, don't focus on his defending. It's an obvious weakness, but it doesn't contribute to his overall. Focus on his dribbling, which is only 69 if you want him to be able to keep hold of the ball better on the ground. Make sure you look at all your objectives before the season starts. The board can be really harsh, even if you're doing really well out on a pitch. And there's some really easy ones that you can do, especially youth development-wise, that might keep you in a job if you get them done early on in the season. Youth academies are super OP, but once again, dynamic potential does play a part. You don't have to get 5-star youth academy scouts. You can get like 3-star, and still have at least 15 really high potential youth players by the end of a season. But again, might be worth loaning them out so those potentials don't go to waste if you can't offer them game time straight away. One big glitch this year is that when you edit players, sometimes their ratings, attributes, and positions change. Just if possible, try and not go near it. The main positions it tends to affect are CM, RW, and left W. So central mid, right winger, and left winger. If you've got a youth academy player, for example, you want to untuck their shirt in the edit player section, and they're one of those 3 positions, just don't bother because it'll mess them up completely. We're hoping for a fix on that in the future, but I'm not holding my breath. Press conferences and player interactions are big, yet another new feature, and they're really easy to make work. Interviews literally take 20 seconds if you skip through the questions, and if you choose the right thing each time, you can easily boost morale for the entire team, not just certain players. That's really important because, again, it boosts their attributes if a player is really happy. You can end up with a team like 5 ratings better than it was at base level just because of answering questions in a press conference. I talked about release clauses for other players earlier, but in terms of your own players, just try and avoid them at all costs. I've seen people getting sacked for it during the course of this game cycle already. If you offer a release clause that's too low in comparison to what a player's worth, the board will just sack you for some reason. But also on top of that, it's just not a very good idea. If you've got a player you want to keep hold of and you put a price tag on them and the team comes in, that's it. You've lost them. Obviously, if it's a player you don't really care about that much and you know, okay, this would actually be paying over the odds for them, then go ahead. But if it's a player you actually value and you want to keep in the side for a long time, I wouldn't go near them. Now, in terms of some of the issues and glitches we've had, obviously the AI are playing horrendous teams against you. Now, I can't tell you how to fix their starting 11s against other AI teams. Unfortunately, that's out of everyone's control. That's down to EA to fix. But you can at least dictate how they play against you. If you've got a second controller, you can use the main one for your team and a second one for the other team, and you can actually choose their starting 11 for you, start the game, go on to select sides when you pause the game, and then take the second controller off so you're playing against the AI again. It's basically a really good way of making sure every single game for you, at least, is challenging. But once again, I would really say, just if you can possibly get this game on PC if you're a career mode fan only. The console version is so restricted and really bows down to all the bugs and glitches we have in the game right now. At least with the PC, you can usually fix a lot of them. I don't think there's really a way we're going to be able to fix the one where, like, teams are using their worst teams against other AI teams, but at least there's the possibility of that getting fixed in the future, if not right now. That, though, is the end of all the tips I have for you guys on how to start your FIFA 20 career modes. Obviously, it's up to everyone. Everyone plays differently, but I just wanted to put these tips across. I think they're useful for everybody. I'm not going to tell you how you should play your career mode, but these are definitely useful tips, I reckon. If you enjoyed and if you found it helpful, then slap a like on this one and subscribe if you're new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It's @theofficialfng on Twitter and on Insta. But it has been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a great day. Enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.